Hello everyone, this is part 14 of What If Naruto Was Like Gaara, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Be sure to like and subscribe, it gives me more motivation. Enjoy. Last time, Naruto started to squirm on the ground as a red chakra started to engulf his body. His skin grew a bright gold fur, his eyelids burst open to reveal fire-red eyes with vertical stead pupils, his ears turned into fox ears, 9 golden tails formed from the 9 chakra tails behind his body. His face grew long and snout-like. His teeth became razor-sharp, he got up on all fours, a miniature 9-tailed fox. What the hell is that? Said Kasama, drawing a kunai from his pouch. It's Naruto in Kyuubi form, said Itachi. The Kyuubi growled at the two men as it began to circle them, its pointed teeth were poised to strike them as soon as they even thought about making a move. What do we do now? This wasn't supposed to happen, said Kasama. We retreat for now, neither of us is up to the task of taking on the Kyuubi, said Itachi, drawing a smoke pellet from within his robes. He rolled the pellet in his fingers, waiting for the chance to throw it to the ground so that he and Kasama could make their escape. The Kyuubi's red eyes stared at the pellet that was being concealed in Itachi's right hand, and then the fox let out a howl. His snout was pointed towards Itachi's right hand as a sound wave caused the pellet to explode in his hand. Kasama and Itachi make to escape, only to be stopped by the fox. Its golden fur shined brightly in the pale moonlight. He opened his mouth again, this time a jet of green fire shot from his jaws and encircled the Rouge Shinobi. Kasama smiled as he started to perform a set of hand signs. Water style, water dragon jutsu, he said as a small wave of water shot from the ground then onto the fire. To his dismay, the fire didn't go out, it burned all the brighter in the dark night. That's impossible, only the Amaterasu can stay burning after being drowned in water, said Kasama. It's fox fire, a flame that is even greater than that of the Amaterasu, said Itachi in a calm voice. Well, what do we do, Itachi? Asked Kasama. We fight, said Itachi as his Sharingan tomos merged into a black kaleidoscope shape with a red background. Mangekyo Sharingan, said Itachi. Kasama smirked as he watched his partner activate the most powerful form of his Keki Genkia. The fox stared at him, whether he was afraid or not couldn't be told by the look of him. Amaterasu, said Itachi as the fox fire was hit was a blast of black flames. The Kyuubi made no sign that he was worried or excited. Itachi looked at the flames as they slowly SD away, revealing the green fox fire beneath them. That's impossible, said Kasama with a worried tone in his voice. Tsukuyomi, said Itachi, staring directly into the fox's eyes. He soon found himself in the familiar genjutsu that only he could control. The Kyuubi's 9 tails swished with either anticipation or anxiety as to what was about to happen next. You will experience pain the likes of which you have never felt for 7 full years, said Itachi, drawing out a sword from within his Akatsuki robes. The Kyuubi snickered at first, then it started to growl as if laughing at Itachi for his efforts. This confused Itachi until he found himself inside a dimly lit room that seemed to be made entirely of concrete. Water sped from the ceiling onto the water-covered floor. This, however, was not what interested Itachi the most. It was the giant cage in front of him with the Kajit for seal placed on the bars. Suddenly the water began to bubble as it turned blood red, then it started to rise as it took the form of something. Soon ears came into shape, then a long snout full of jagged sharp teeth. The thing that scared Itachi the most was the glowing red eyes. Kyuubi, he thought as the beast let out an ear-splitting roar that caused the genjutsu to shatter in that instant. Itachi fell to his knees, breathing heavily. Kasama stared at him confused. Itachi, what happened? Asked Kasama. I'm not sure, said Itachi, his voice shaky. The fox's tail swished before them like a dog that's playing a game with its master and winning. Itachi got slowly to his feet. The fox eyed him like a hungry wolf spying a piece of raw meat. Itachi did a blurred set of hand signs, then he and Kasama vanished from within the flames. The Kyuubi sniffed the air. They had used a teleportation jutsu and were now miles away from the area. The Kyuubi then sat on the ground and pointed his nose into the air. Then it let out a loud howl that would have put a wolf to shame. The Kyuubi walked over to his unconscious teammates. then gently nudged them with his nose to try and wake them, but to no avail. They were out cold, and the fact they had severed chakra exhaustion didn't help none. The QB looked at his friends and gave them another nudge just to see if he could stir one of them awake. After this attempted, he took a deep breath and blew some fox fire on the ground beside them. It burned like a campfire that had been lit for hours. The QB then flicked one of its mighty tails, and the earth around the two shot up, creating a wall of rock around him at least 10 feet high. The QB, satisfied that his friends were safe, took off into the woods. He came back several minutes later with a mouthful of fish. He flicked one of his tails, causing a small opening to appear. He then walked through it to find that Hinata and Kakashi were still fast asleep. The QB laid the fish by the fire. Night had just settled over the forest and the air had become chilled. The QB looked at his shivering teammates, then walked over to them and curled up around them. His tails covered all but their heads like a warm blanket. The QB rested his head next to Hinata's and slowly drifted off to sleep. As he did, he heard a voice echo through his mind. "Well done, Kit." Hinata awoke the next morning to feel like she was lying on a very comfortable bed. The covers felt like they were made of silky fur. The sunlight hit her face, caused her to finally open her eyes to see that she was wrapped in something golden and furry. She looked around to see Kakashi-sensei was sitting beside a green fire cooking some fish. "Well, good morning, Hinata," said Kakashi as his mask curled. Hinata sat up and stretched, then she winced as her body was racked with aches and pains. "Oh, I feel like someone beat me within an inch of my life," she said. Suddenly she felt a gentle warming sensation flood her body as all of its aches and pains melted away. She looked herself over to see she was completely healed, and then everything came back to her. "Where's Naruto? Oh no, they took him." She shouted and fell to her knees and started to cry. "I wouldn't worry too much about Naruto, he's closer than you think," said Kakashi. Hinata looked at him with a confused look. Then she turned around to see a bear-sized fox sleeping beside her. "Ayai," she shouted as she jumped 10 feet in the air, then took a defensive stance. The fox raised its head upon hearing Hinata yell. Once he was sure nothing dangerous was around, it let out a long yawn. As he got up and stretched his body, his tail stiffened up as he did so. Kakashi SS Sensei www, what I is TTT that, said Hinata with a look of absolute terror. "That Hinata is Naruto Uzumaki, the QB," said Kakashi as if he were announcing the entry of the Hokage herself. "NN Naruto," said Hinata in an unbelieving tone. Then she passed out. QB looked from Kakashi to Hinata, then back to Kakashi. Then he walked over to Hinata and using one of his tails gently lowered her onto his back. He nodded for Kakashi to follow him. They soon found themselves at the gates of Konoha. The QB placed Hinata into Kakashi's awaiting arms. The QB then turned to leave when, "Naruto, where are you going?" asked Kakashi. The QB nodded to the forest. "You know you're still a ninja of this village, and not to mention Hinata's not going to take kindly to you leaving her," said Kakashi. The QB breathed in a deep breath, then exhaled as if he was sighing. Then he nodded and walked up to Kakashi. Kakashi replaced Hinata upon his back and QB curled his tails around her to keep her warm. Then they entered the village. They were met with the same loathing and malcontent that Naruto had faced many times during his childhood, only this time he knew the reason, as well as not really caring as to why they stared at him. This would have been smooth sailing for them to return to the Hyuga complex. Had it not been for the poor soul who threw a rock at Naruto, nearly hitting Hinata, they reached the gates that lead to the Hyuga complex. QB made to hand Hinata over to Kakashi only to feel her tugging on his back fur, not willing to be pulled off. QB left out another sigh as he and Kakashi walked to the door. Kakashi knocked on the door just as Hiyashi opened it. "Kakashi, have you see?" began Hiyashi until he saw Hinata curled up on the QB's back. "So it happened then," said Hiyashi looking over the giant fox. QB nodded. "Are you still Naruto or are you QB?" asked Hiyashi after a long silence. The QB handed Hinata over to Hiyashi, then the tails slowly became transparent and red. The fur began to recede into his body. His ears returned to normal human ears, his snout shot back into his face, his claws became hands and feet again. Soon Naruto Uzumaki stood before Hiyashi and Kakashi. "I am and always will be Naruto Uzumaki," said Naruto, opening his eyes to show they were now purple instead of blue. Last time. "Are you still Naruto or are you QB?" asked Hiyashi after a long silence. The QB handed Hinata over to Hiyashi, then the tails slowly became transparent and red. The fur began to recede into his body. His ears returned to normal human ears, his snout shot back into his face, his claws became hands and feet again. Soon Naruto Uzumaki stood before Hiashi and Kakashi. I am and always will be Naruto Uzumaki, said Naruto, opening his eyes to show they were now purple instead of blue. Naruto awoke the next morning with the sunlight beaming him in the face through the leaves of the trees that hung over his head. He got up and stretched, then looked around to find there wasn't a soul to be seen and none of the trees had been damaged by anything greater than a termite or a bug of some sort. He sighed with relief as he now knew that he had total control over his demonic other's powers. Flashback. Hey Naruto, do you have place to stay the night? Asked Hiashi. Naruto looked at him questioningly. No. Why? He asked. Well, seeing as how you've saved my daughter not once but more times than I can count, I'm sure, and I thought that giving you a place here would be a way to repay you in some portion, said Hiashi. Naruto smiled, then shook his head. Thanks for your offer, Lord Hyuga, but I can't stay inside the village until I'm certain that the beast within has given me total control, said Naruto. Hiashi nodded. I understand. When you figure out as to whether or not you do have control, the doors to my house are open, said Hiashi. Naruto smiled and bowed. Thank you, Lord Hyuga, he said, then he disappeared in a puff of smoke. End flashback. It had been a week since he'd had that conversation. He came to this secluded area of the forest that he was sure only he knew about. Then he'd sit and meditate, talking with the fox that still dwelled inside him. Our chakras have merged, not our souls, those are things that can never mirror, said the QB. Now he was as sure as he could be that the fox's power was his to use as he saw fit. He then got up and started to stretch out. He then took a jump through the trees to loosen his stiff limbs. He soon found himself at their old training grounds. Haven't been here in a while, he thought as he looked at the 3 logs that they would have been tied to had they failed to get the bells from Kakashi. He then made a set of hand signs that he hadn't made in nearly 4 years. Shadow clone jutsu, he said as 100 shadow clones appeared out of nowhere. Alright, let's see if my skills are as rusty as I hope they're not, said Naruto to the army of 100 clones. They all nodded in agreement, then all 101 of them took the same fighting stance. Naruto then opened and closed his right palm, signaling for his clones to attack him. There was a large puff of smoke. As the first clone was disposed of, then another. Soon all of the fake Narutos were gone, leaving only the original. Well, I guess I'm not too bad, he said to himself as he started to do another set of hand signs, but before he finished he heard the sound of someone clapping. He turned his head to see Kakashi leaning against a tree. His mask was curled into what could have been called a grin. I thought you said you were out of practice, he said as he walked towards Naruto, who was rubbing the back of his head. Well, I guess I'm not as out of practice as I thought, said Naruto. Well then, what do you say to a little sparring session, said Kakashi, pulling up his headband to reveal the Sharingan in his left eye. Naruto grinned as he took a fighting stance. Alright sensei, loser buys breakfast, said Naruto as his purple eyes turned from purple to bright red. A single leaf was blown in between the two. They both stared at it like a starting gun. As soon as it touched a single blade of grass, both ninja drew a kunai and attacked. Naruto had Kakashi from behind with his kunai pressed to his T. Impressive, Naruto, said Kakashi as another appeared behind Naruto. But not good enough to win, sadly, said the Kakashi behind Naruto. Naruto smirked, then he disappeared in a puff of smoke. Wind style, vacuum vortex jutsu, came Naruto's voice from within the trees. Both Kakashi looked in horror as a vortex appeared around them. Both disappeared in puffs of smoke. Naruto came out from within the trees, his kunai at the ready for any sudden changes. Soon a barrage of kunai and shuriken flew through the air, hitting Naruto in the back only to see him disappear in a puff of smoke and become a log. Naruto jumped from tree to tree as silently as possible. He held a glowing blue orb in his hand. He then sensed his target and fell downwards. The orb was ahead of him as he stretched his palm out. The orb made contact with the back of the ninja. There was an explosion as the chakra sent Kakashi flying through the air. He then disappeared in a puff of smoke and became a pile of splinters. Kakashi did a set of hand signs. Water style, water dragon jutsu, said Kakashi. Lightning style, thunder dragon jutsu, shouted Naruto. The two jutsus collided, then Kakashi's dragon was destroyed and a giant dragon that looked as if he were made of pure electricity charged towards him. He did another set of hand signs. Earth style, Earth barrier jutsu, said Kakashi as he was surrounded by a dome of solid rock. There was a loud crash as Naruto's jutsu made contact with the stone dome, causing it to chip and crack, but it remained intact. Water style, rock cutter jutsu, said Naruto. Kakashi could hear the sound of the rock around him being chipped away by some unknown source before it completely shattered. Naruto stood in front of him with a kunai pointed at his teeth. This didn't faze Kakashi, but the 100 Narutos that surrounded him caused him to worry a little. He's even better than before, thought Kakashi as Naruto lowered the kunai and helped his sensei to his feet. Well, Naruto, if I were to grade your skills now, I'd say you were an Anbu level, said Kakashi with a grin. Naruto smirked, then bowed to his sensei, then thanked him for the great match as Kakashi nodded and disappeared in a puff of smoke. Naruto disappeared as well. Unbeknownst to both ninja, they were being watched by a pair of yellow eyes with vertical SS for pupils. Naruto met Kakashi at a small food stand. They both ordered a plate of food, and then began to eat. While they enjoyed their meals, a figure hiding in the shadows stared at him. He had 2 needles that had been soaked with a very special poison ready to throw them. Kakashi and Naruto placed their chopsticks on their bowls, then Kakashi paid for the meal. As they made to stand up, the figure threw the 2 needles. Naruto took his in the back, then reached out and took Kakashi's in his hand. He grunted as he pulled both needles from his body. Kakashi had disappeared from view and reappeared holding a man dressed in a brown cloak. His face was hidden behind a black mask. Kakashi's face showed nothing but hatred for the man sitting on the ground in front of him. Who are you working for? Asked Kakashi. The man started to hiss as steam shot from his being. Soon he was nothing more than a puddle of green liquid. Kakashi looked to Naruto to see that he looked pale but relatively fine. Naruto hid the needle in his kunai pouch prior to the man's death. We should go tell the Hokage, said Naruto. I'll tell her you go and get yourself checked out, said Kakashi sternly. Naruto nodded and walked away while Kakashi headed towards the Hokage's tower. Kakashi appeared in a puff of smoke in front of a snoring Tsunade. I think I'll come back a little later, he thought, and disappeared again while Tsunade laughed herself silly that her feigning sleep actually worked. Naruto walked slowly towards the hospital. Sweat glistened off his forehead and soaked his hair. He felt cold even though it was 80 degrees outside. His body felt heavy like he was wearing lead weights. He had just made it to the door of the hospital when he collapsed. His skin was now deathly pale. His veins had turned black and showed through his skin. Pain of unimaginable proportions shot through his body like electricity. He let out a raspy gasp as his breath seemed to have been stolen from him. He tried with all of his might to summon his chakra, but it was as if it was all blocked off. His body soon started to feel numb. His vision became blurred. His eyelids started to feel heavy. As he started to lose consciousness, he could have sworn he'd heard someone shout his name. Hinata escaped his lips as he blacked out. Sakura was making her way to the hospital to go through the morning reports that she would then take to Tsunade. As she approached the hospital, she saw a guy about her age lay on the ground in front of the hospital doors. Hey buddy, that's not a place to take a nap, shouted Sakura as she drew closer to the man. He didn't stir or acted like he'd even heard her. This annoyed her more than the fact that Kakashi had yet to return with Naruto, the supposed only one that could bring Sasuke back to her. As she came upon the man, she noticed was sweating so badly that it actually soaked the concrete step he was lying on, making it look like someone had doused it with a fire hose. She knelt down and felt his forehead only to quickly pull it away. She then checked his pulse to see it was racing. She forced one of his eyelids open to find his pupil was dilated. She then noticed his veins started to appear black as ink. She picked him and took him inside. With the help of the receptionist, she managed to get Naruto into a room where she started to try and heal him. She asked for a specific list of ingredients, and then mixed them together, into a green-colored liquid. She placed her hand over the liquid, then using her chakra she pulled the liquid from the bowl, causing it to look like a green swirling bubble. She then pressed the liquid into his chest. After a few seconds she pulled it out only to find that it was clear. There wasn't a single drop of the poison within the green bubble. Get Lady Tsunade, she shouted to a nurse who then took off towards the Hokage's office. Naruto walked down the familiar corridors that looked as if they were made of concrete. The lights flickered, causing it to become dark for a few moments. He soon found himself face to face with the Kyuubi, who was still trapped behind the sealed doors. What is going on, boy? Why haven't you healed yourself? Asked Kyubi. I can't. Every time I try it's like the poison eats my chakra, said Naruto. The Kyubi sighed. I know this poison, it is a demonic poison that only one creature can produce, said Kyubi. The 8 tails, said Naruto. The Kyubi nodded. I fought him once. His poison will slowly destroy your chakra network, then it attacks your vitals, causing a slow and painful death, said Kyubi. If it's so powerful, how did you survive? Asked Naruto. I survived because I am the Demon King, my powers are unsurpassable, no poison by any demon can harm me, but you. You are a mere human, your body will not be able to fight the poison even if my chakra is merged with yours. We're going to said Kyubi. Naruto smirked, then he started to glow a bright red. What are you doing? Asked Kyubi. I'm going to show you just how weak a human like me really is, said Naruto as he started to blast chakra throughout the corridors. Tsunade and Sakura were both breathing heavily as they used up all of their chakra to try and counter the poison. What kind of poison is this? Said Sakura to nobody in particular. Suddenly the room was lit with a bright red glow that was emanating from Naruto. His wounds started to hiss as they started to close shut. Only for a few moments, then they reopened. Naruto's body stopped glowing. Tsunade glanced up at a heart monitor that a few moments ago was beeping steadily was now starting to slow down. She did a quick set of hand signs. Her hands then started to glow bright green. Come on kid, stay with me, she shouted. The beeps that came from the monitor became slower and slower, like seconds on a clock with a battery. Hinata made her way to the training grounds when she was stopped by Kakashi. Good morning sensei, said Hinata bowing. Hinata, Naruto's in the hospital, he's been poisoned, they're not sure if he'll make it, said Kakashi. Hinata's world began to crash around her. She then took off at a speed Kakashi had never seen her run at before. He then ran off after her. The door to Naruto's room burst open. Tsunade was standing over Naruto, her hand glowing brightly. Sakura ran over to try and keep Hinata away from Naruto until Tsunade was finished. Naruto, said Hinata as tears rolled down her face. Kakashi appeared through the door a few seconds later. He sat down beside Hinata and offered her a shoulder to cry on while he remained unreadable. The heart monitor that was beside Naruto showed he was slowly losing his fight against the poison. As its beeps became slower and slower until a warning went off, Sakura pressed a button causing the alarm to stop. Tsunade did a set of hand signs, then pressed her hands into Naruto's chest. The heart monitor sped up for a few moments, then started to slow down again. Damn it, we're losing him, she shouted. Sakura did a set of hand signs and attempted to assist her sensei as they worked to rid Naruto of the poison. Suddenly a maniacal laugh echoed throughout the hospital and the entire village, as the gates crashed and turned to rubble. Blanketing the area in a thick cloud of dust and debris, the cloud cleared, revealing a giant white snake, its head raised up revealing a golden underbelly. 8 tails laid flat against the ground as the 50-mile snake sheared into the village. Kyubi, where are you? It hissed. Kakashi and Hinata jumped out the window and took off towards the giant snake in hopes of keeping it away from Naruto. This is bad, with Naruto still in critical condition, thought Kakashi as he and Hinata ran to meet the beast. Naruto, please survive, thought Hinata, casting a worried gaze towards the hospital before she and Kakashi made their way to the battle. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.